you know, a good guy at each weight has created these semifinals to be really strong. Where in the past, maybe you look at the 4 and 5 and say, I don't know if they, you know, have the opportunity to push the 1 seed. And this year, it's totally different. We have 4 and 5 seeds that could win the whole tournament, and it just makes for awesome wrestling early in the rounds.
Gaetano Consoli for Duke and Lorenzo Norman of Stanford. If you have not seen this young man wrestle, get ready to have some fun. Norman, the redshirt freshman, Blair Academy. Again, like Knox, went all the way across the country, grew up in New Jersey. And what a year he has had despite the injury late. And Trent, I know you are familiar with Norman. You've spent some time in the room with him. What makes him so special?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to wrestle with Lorenzo a couple weeks ago. He has what I kind of call the it factor, right? You can't quite put your finger on it. The way that he's able to move and flow to leg attacks, it's not natural, right? And it's something that he really utilizes. You notice when he gets the leg attacks, it almost looks like it's too easy. And watching someone back in the day, kind of what people used to talk about Ed Ruth, is like, how is he getting to his legs? It makes it so easy. They have that it factor. They know how to flow. They know positions. As you're seeing right now, it's like he's getting to these legs and it looks too easy for him.
Very tall athlete, uses his frame well. And again, he's still young, so you just don't know what he's going to fill out into as far as his future goes.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity there. Like you said, he's long, he's got a big frame, and he just knows how to use his leverage really well. Consoli's scrapping really well. Consoli kind of goes under the radar in this conference a little bit. He's pound for pound probably one of the strongest guys in the conference. You see sometimes he gets into upper body positions and he can really horse guys over. So he's doing a good job of scrambling, passing the ankle here. Lorenzo's going to try to put him in danger, but he passes it himself, puts Lorenzo in danger. He's got that leg tight. A takedown for Consoli.
And you see Consoli immediately tapping Norman with that leg, and let's hope that Gaetano is all right here. Oh boy, you hate to see that for the redshirt sophomore, and an injury time, and he was immediately tapping Lorenzo Norman to break that hold as we take another look.
Yeah, you see both these guys' knees just get really caught up in here. It's just a lot of torque on the joints.
There's the tap there with Norman. Consoli's a really neat story. He grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, was introduced to the sport at the age of 6, and his story was he was actually getting bullied at school. So his dad sent him to his first wrestling practice and was his first coach, and he fell in love with the sport right away, and I guarantee you he was never bullied again once you get introduced to the wrestling room.
Oh, it's such a huge benefit of wrestling. You hear those stories all the time. I mean, wrestling changes people's lives in a situation like that. You know, going from being bullied to learning skills like this and learning self-confidence is such a huge thing for individuals to grow as a kid.
He's a self-proclaimed big move wrestler. He has told us that on occasion, and Glenn Lanham told us the story. He actually passed on him early in the recruiting cycle, but one of Consoli's club coaches called Lanham, urging him to give him another shot. A few weeks later, Glenn Lanham liked what he saw, and Gaetano Consoli was part of the Duke wrestling program. As you see, Lanham, year 13. Second straight year that he's had a really young team. Optimistic for the future. He's brought in a couple of good kids in this upcoming recruiting cycle. He has some good young guys getting experience this year, and Duke trying to make trade wins in a conference that's tough to be young in right now.
Yeah, it certainly is, and coming in as a freshman and a sophomore in this conference, you're kind of, lack of better terms, fed to the wolves a little bit, right? Like with Virginia Tech, with NC State, UNC, Virginia, there's no easy matches on the schedule.
Good news is that Consoli is all right. So we will pick up here. Norman chooses down underneath. Did they not give the three there?
Seems like they may have waved off the takedown. May have said the scramble continue. I didn't hear on that end. But because of the injury time, Lorenzo Norman got the pick bottom. So it looks like they wiped off the takedown, injury time, choice goes to Norman, and he went down.
Oh, okay. tough break there for Consoli. It looked like he had the 3, but during that lengthy break, they change it, so we're scoreless. Trent mentioned the reason Norman's down underneath. Your opponent gets choice following the injury timeout. Norman slowly trying to work his way up. Consoli very strong in that upper body, but not strong enough to keep Norman under wraps. And now Lorenzo Norman trying to reverse his fortune near the edge, and the 2 go out of bounds.
Yeah, you're going to start to see Lorenzo Norman pick up his pace. You look back at this takedown. It's like when he gave the 3, Norman continued to wrestle out of position, and then when they went back to look at it, looking at reaction time, they said, okay, Consoli didn't control the legs for as long as he needed to, and they let the action continue. And 20 seconds left here. We'll see if Norman picks up his action. There he's in on attack. So he just switches off really well. He uses his head pressure to bump Consoli back and secure the takedown. Strong wrestling. I mentioned it earlier, sorry. Scoring at the end of the periods is huge. Getting takedowns and finishing out and not letting the guy get the escape point, it is a game changer in these matches. Here you see this takedown on this entry. Watch how he uses his head to bring back Consoli back. Just very strong there by Norman.
Unanswered points, as you described at the end of the first period. Norman 4-0 as we move into the second period. Caution on green. Lorenzo Norman was the ACC Wrestler of the Week after he won the Midlands Championship. Stanford won their first team title at the Midlands in program history. Followed that with a second-place finish in Vegas. His only loss, Dean Hamady, 4-3. And again, Consoli with his left leg and that left knee, trying to hang in there and trying to battle for Duke. But for the second time, the injury clock and the injury time has started. I just feel for these athletes who are banged up late in the year. You talked about it, Trent. It's a long wrestling season when these guys are going back in October, then into November, and it's all about pacing and peaking at the right time. So tough to do in a sport that requires so much physicality.
Oh, it's extremely tough to do, and you know the sad reality of Division I wrestling is when you get to this point in the year, almost everybody's dealing with something. You know, some guys worse than others, but you know, you're talking knee joints, elbow joints, shoulders, neck. It's a grind, you know, and they, you know, I think as you're seeing recently, the guys that are able to really protect their bodies early on and take care of themselves, it pays dividends as you get to this point in the year. Being healthy at this time of the year is something that you can't take for granted. You even see Lorenzo Norman, you know, wearing the face mask, having a nose injury earlier. It is a grind to go through these months.
Back to action here in this third period. Norman with a 5-0 lead. As he continues his ride. I'm curious, Trent, this has been a year in which the sport, it just seems like it's been really heavily hit by injuries, especially to the star athletes. What would you attest to the rise in injuries this season, if there is any?
Hard to tell. I think the emergence of some of the way that we're scrambling nowadays and just the ability of guys to wrestle through positions, you know, they're doing it so often that, you know, they don't realize that doing that over time really puts their joints in bad positions. So hard to tell, but I think maybe just the emergence of the way that guys are able to wrestle and the positions they're able to put themselves in, sometimes they get it locked out and there's nothing they can do. Looking at the score here, we missed it slightly. Because Consoli took a second injury time, that's an automatic point. So Norman got a point, and then Consoli got an escape point to make it 5-1.
Consoli slowly working his way back up to get into the center. Clearly not 100%. You see him favoring his left leg. Thing for sure, he'll get no sympathy from Lorenzo Norman. Let's see if he goes after that leg attack. Comes in on that right leg, hit near the edge. secures the 3. Good work, edge of mat wrestling from the redshirt freshman Lorenzo Norman.
And some of that misdirection work that I was talking about, that Lorenzo Norman is just really special. Fake one side, come back, and be in a perfect position for a finish. It's hard to teach that.
174-pound weight class. The top seed is Josh Ogasanya of North Carolina. Then you have Luca Augustina Pitt as the 3 seed. We just saw the 4 and the 5 matchup with Singleton and Wallach. Norman settling in as the 2 seed in his first ACC championship, his first postseason championship after the red shirt a year ago. Norman's going to cross over the minute threshold of riding time as we close out the second period in an 8-1 lead for Norman.
You know, one thing we mentioned about Console, he's not afraid to go big. You know, down 8-1 with a compromised knee. Don't be surprised if he tries to go upper body and look for a throw here to bring himself back in this match.
Trying to go back to some of his Greco days. Having no luck here. Has a blown gasket with that leg injury, and Norman, he's tough to fend off when you have 2 healthy legs, let alone 1, and slides around to the side. 3 more for Lorenzo Norman.
Right now, the Stanford coaches are saying, hey, Lorenzo, we got to work for bonus points here. If you can get to a pinning combination, great, but don't be afraid to open it up on your feet and look for a tech fall.
Patrick Brucky, Chris Ayers in the Stanford corner right now. Year 2 for Ayers at Stanford. 19th overall. The Matt Gentry head wrestling coach took over the program, and Rob Cole made the move from Stanford to North Carolina. Brucky was a guy he brought with him. 2-time All-American back in his day for Princeton. Now one of the coaches on the Stanford staff.
It's going to be hard to turn somebody like Console that's as strong as he is.
Working off the arm of Console. Norman still trying to get that turn. 25 seconds near the edge. Has that baseball grip on the wrist of Console, pinned on that lower back. Now sticks that knee on top right in the back of the elbow area, trying to come back the other way. Like you mentioned, Trent, that's tough to do on a powerhouse like Console underneath. And Lorenzo Norman is going to finish close to 3 minutes of riding time. Double-digit points for the redshirt freshman. Respect between these two as he helps Console up. An impressive start for Norman.
You just see Norman scoring a lot of different ways here. You saw his own offense. You saw some re-attacks. Console, great job toughing out the match and finishing. Not an easy thing to do on a bad knee.
.184 here in this